I'm that girl who trusts her intuition. And when I started doing that, the whole world started working in my favor because I was trusting my guides. I was trusting the guidance that they were giving me. And for me to also understand that when I sense into certain people's energies and agendas and intentions, when I trust that, then I understand them more versus feeling very almost like unbalanced, uneasy with their own agenda. And when you can read someone really clearly, but they're trying to present themselves to the world as something else, like there is this confusion. Often we want to doubt ourselves over others. And so when I started truly honoring my intuition, and this was one of the gifts I got from my first QHHT session as a client, because I wanted to understand, did I have intuition? Was it good intuition? And how do I maintain it so I can really step into the intuition? Because I kept hearing from my own clients. I think I did about 45 sessions with people before I had my own session as a client for QHHT. And this was a really great tool for the subconscious to tell me how they prompt me with their information to guide me. And at that time, I was usually doing this, just dismissing what they were telling me first off, and then going into doubt and almost flipping their information and running with that, and then finding that I was getting lost upon my way. So I really appreciate this. And what they wanted me to discuss and disclose with you today was in reference to what you experienced yesterday. Now, wasn't that interesting? As you know, these sessions are certainly not scripted, and I only sort of get prompted to talk about certain things, and then they all unfold as they need to be, and then they are posted. And so I feel like it's all very well divinely orchestrated from their perspective, what needs to be shared on that specific day. And so what you all got to see was probably something quite uncomfortable. And it was a learning lesson for you and experience as well. Not only did you see me facing my fears deeply and overcoming them, and then suddenly discovering a whole bunch of purposes and significances, and also my own behavior, and how, because I haven't faced that fear and overcome it, I was living in a way that was still reacting to that fear as if that was actually going to be the case. And so if you don't know what I'm talking about, this is just in reference of I felt their intuition yesterday to just, while it's been recorded, while I was talking to you, to just stop and think about my biggest fear. Now, I don't do that for shits and giggles normally ever. I try to avoid facing my own fears. I think that's quite normal. But this is part of our problems, is that when we don't think about or face our fears, even if they are irrational or not, I mean, it was a very brief experience. It was all done while you got to see it. And so instantly, as soon as I opened myself up to, okay, let's just go with this, then whatever, I trust these beings are supporting me to be able to support you and be the middleman. And so I instantly had to, on the spot, face a fear. And I realized it was quite a big one because of my behaviors and worries about my children around roads. And then yesterday, when I was unpacking even further, I realized this wasn't a situation that I suddenly developed when I had children. I actually had this, my very first recollection of me being like this was in my 20s, when we had adopted some cats. And I was very sensitive to them being on the roads, quite anxious about it. And so obviously I have dismissed all of the signs to face my fears and look into it. I just thought, right, I've got this fear. I'm going to keep adding as much fear of all different things into my life and just live with all this fear and trying to keep myself being safe by not by reacting to the fear and creating it as if it's a constant potential. So anyway, so that was that yesterday. And what they want me to say to you guys all is congratulations. You all did something that you've probably all preferred not to do. Actually watch someone be in deep fear, knowing you couldn't help me, knowing that all you could do was watch me go through my journey, and then you could see me find my way out. And I just thought, well, what's the significance in that, subconscious? And they said, many of you with your beautiful hearts and your beautiful worries and concerns and what you think is your responsibilities for humanity, and you want to save everyone from going into fear, you want to save everyone from everything, and that is so beautiful of you. But also, sometimes when we try to protect people from these experiences, we are disempowering them, and we are preventing them from having their own journey, their own experience, and their own overcoming those situations to then grow from and heal. And so it's almost like, for some of you, your fear has been seeing people in fear. And so through this group experience together, we all got to face some of our fears. Now, I hope that wasn't too uncomfortable for you, and I could feel so much of your love afterwards. And thank you so much for the beautiful messages. You guys are so sweet. And thank you. And thank you for allowing me to be raw and give you examples. And as I said, I don't dive into my fear glory box of problems that I haven't wanted to address much. But obviously, when I do sessions as a client, I do want my subconscious to tell me, what am I sticking with? What is there something that I'm not aware of that I am still stuck on or fumbling? And so these sessions are really great for that. But we could ask them everything. What should I have for breakfast? What's the best thing to wear today? What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? And the reality is, they would tell us from our opinion, but what experiences are we learning to empower ourselves to grow if we are still looking for outside external information? I know that they are within us and they're great. And that would probably be my first port of call, instead of running to someone else for their opinions and advices. If I had a big problem, I would definitely run to them. But I want to not have big problems. I want to be able to process it amongst myself and think about it and emotionally work through it and do my inner work, because that's what I'm here for. I've got my inner work, and then I've got my service to self and my service to others. And, it's all connected. And if there is disbalance in one area, everything else kind of gets impacted and affected by it. So, we must be responsible for the way we approach life. And if there is anything that we are afraid of. And I was really surprised how quickly that scenario about me being afraid of seeing my children being run over, because I never logically noticed that. And I know so many people said, oh, this was the same. They have exactly the same fear. And I was like, well, yes, all parents would be very fearful of their children, but it just felt really specific. Like, we've got stairs, we've got many sharp corners, we've got many maybe unsafe toys that they play with that they may not be the appropriate size for them. Because we've got the 5-year-olds and now the 3-year-old, what the girls are getting into, with all their little knickknacks is probably not the most appropriate size for Grace and our son. So, if I wanted to start helicoptering my children, I could definitely see all the problems of our household and our societies and all this sort of stuff, which could be dangerous to them. But this felt very specific. So big stuff. So how did you feel when you had to watch me embrace my fears? And I'm just wondering if this was to help you see that people can actually overcome their fears and quite quickly, and be able to see the purposes of them quite quickly. And were you okay with that? Did it make you feel uncomfortable? Is this your worst case scenario? It makes me always want to question the significance and the purpose of everything when we have these experiences, because, as I said, nothing's scripted. So and it seems like when I zoom out and look at all of the sessions and all the information, I can see where they're guiding us. And this is extraordinary, and a real gift that they're giving us, is to actually apply and really truly look at our inner work and realize that, tears may feel uncomfortable, but the lessons are so valuable, because I really was, and I could see if I had continued on in that approach, the way I would be more anxious the way I was anxious with my children around the roads and things. I mean, I could talk to them calmly, but because I was starting to feel anxious, I was starting to go an emotional drive rather than a logical drive. So I wasn't able to really guide them and communicate with them as well as I wanted to, because I'd already sort of tricked into that sort of panic. And because it was so scary for me, I didn't even want to talk to them about it. And my fears of what was happening, because I was just avoiding it. So now I can see the great beauty of it. And I really hope that you do all take the time just to sort of delve into that. What is your biggest fear? Because it gave me tremendous insights that I was able to grow from. So when we support people with just love and respect their journeys, and we know that it is going to be painful for people doing their inner work, but what is that saying at the gym where it's kind of like no pain, no gain? And this is the same, I guess, for emotional journeys as well. So all purposeful, and we know that they say that all the freaking time, but this is why they're wanting me to do these sessions, is to be able to give these examples of the purposes and significances and the reasons for my experiences. So I hope truly that was helpful. And now that you realize that you can actually support people with their being, looking at their own inner work, I mean, I'm sure you would have thought about what you wanted to say to comfort me and to support me, for those who didn't. And I know that, this is also for you to train yourselves when we're having more conversations or more dialogue with people who are going through real heartbreak. When we are empaths, we can fully take on all of their experiences, and it can really deeply emotionally trigger us too. So I think we're having to get used to supporting people who are in discomfort and being just balanced and not triggering ourselves in the emotional realm, and just hear and see what they're going through, and allow them the journey to learn the lessons and see how it's impacting them. So there is so much for that really simple experience that I had yesterday, and I'm still unpacking it and processing it. But I wanted to share with you what we were all participating in. So it's extraordinary. It's truly extraordinary. So being comfortable while other people are uncomfortably going through their journey. And that's ultimately what we are seeing for those people who are still struggling to see certain narratives, and who are still complying to certain narratives, even though you know that their struggle is they're still trying to go with that system, even though it doesn't serve them. We don't have to tell them it doesn't serve them. They can discover that themselves when they get to share their frustrations, and instead of having a war of conversations of what's the right agenda and where the disinformation is, all this stuff, when you actually go down and talk to them at a personal level about what's going on for them and what they are struggling to understand, then it gives them opportunity for expression. And this is so important for us, to listen to our friends and to people, even strangers, who want to start expressing themselves to us. They are vulnerably communicating their thoughts and feelings, and we can easily, when we listen to them, know, are they coming from an emotional stance, or are they coming from an intellectual stance? And sometimes, it's all this mixture and all this range. So every communication that we have with people is an opportunity to support them one way or another. And empowering them is always going to be the best sort of approach. And then it gets tricky because sometimes we're supposed to empower them through triggering them. And it could be said that me having to do facing my own fears yesterday was going to trigger many people. And, it's not because I wanted to upset or hurt you at all, but it is about you having to experience seeing that and overcoming that, knowing that you couldn't help me. This was not something that was possible for you to help. So you almost had to just go on this train wreck with me to see how did I go? Do you think that you could be so vulnerable to, say, someone else if you wanted to share facing your own fears? This is a really interesting exercise that they've given us. And, they don't give us these exercises just for, the novelty factor of it. They know that when we actually do these things that they recommend, it's just like trusting our intuition. When we trust them and we sort of just try to see what they are saying and to implement it and apply it, that is going to be when your life truly is empowering the most. And they can't summarize everything for you. No one truly can summarize everything for you. So many people message me because they just want to know in a summary the date of this shift and what's happening and why. And there's so much details to it, and we must be so interested to teach ourselves and grow from this information that we have to do the work to listen to all of the information, listen to all of the sessions, listen to the Dolores's videos, read Dolores's books. This is homework. This is serious work. This isn't a hobby. And for so many people that refuse to listen to sessions, refuse to read her books, but just demand that they get like a big summary of what's happening for them to just deny it and, oh, that's not my opinion, la, 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 la. That is fantastic, but that is showing us very clearly they do not want to grow. They're quite comfortable where they are at, and they're very threatened with new information or different information that could potentially expand them. And so you're fighting with their egos, because the subconscious is a bigger, advanced being who knows so much more. And while there is hundreds of different sessions that I've done with conversations on Heaven on Earth and with different clients, and most of those clients are practitioners of some, it's either, some quantum sessions of some description. So, this is not random people off the streets. This is people who have now dedicated their lives to being of service with this work. So we have to respect the information from those sessions, because that is the subconscious's information for that client. It may not be your truth. You may not have the same collectives. You may not have the same life journey, but understanding that for this client, this is what is happening. And so, of course, timelines can change and merge and get extended out. But if you've got a life contract to go to the new earth, you will be. So, it is extraordinary times. So much is going on. And while we're in this luxury opportunity to master our feelings, face our fears, find love and joy in all, and empower ourselves to then truly be of service to others, it's a big deal. It's lots of things to do. So trust you are very protected. Trust that when you are of service, the universe will provide for you financially, and what you need may not be what you want, but trusting all is well, and that we're here in a very important time for humanity. So what are you going to do with your days? How are you going to empower yourself? And how are you going to fully embrace and empower others who are struggling and going through those hardships? So I'll leave you with this, my friends. I love you so, so much. And I truly, truly, truly hope that you can respect yourself enough to just do this inner work, face those fears, even though it may be ugly with some tears. It is better than actually having to experience it. That's for sure. So, and the physical. So allow yourself to have that little experience, knowing that you are safe, knowing that you are loved, and know that you're never alone.